From what I've observed all through my incarceration, and also now that I've been let out back into society, is that not much emphasis is placed on the victims of crime. After a crime has been committed, the main focus is on the perpetrator and calls for justice to be served. Once the perpetrator has been apprehended and placed in jail, the victim is forgotten and the incident is placed on the shelf in favor of the next best sensation. Very often, the lives of the victims are overlooked and they are expected to carry on with their lives as if nothing happened. Here on Vugasiswe, we will be delving deeper into the sad reality because what I do here is to have real talk about real life issues. Welcome back to my channel, and for those of you who don't know me by now, my name is Harriet Lucas, and I greet each and every one of you that has tuned in, and a special shout out to my president, Mr. Ramaphosa. Throughout the many years that I spent behind bars, I had countless hours to reflect on the actions that landed me in jail. So many sleepless nights I had, thinking about the victim of my crime and her family and loved ones. In my mind's eye, I often envisioned the vacuum of the absence that her physical presence left in the lives of those dear to her. I would also play out scenarios in my head where I would approach them and apologize for my reckless and selfish actions. But I knew deep down in my heart that no amount of apologies on my part could ever alleviate or quell the pain that I had inflicted on them. I've accepted the fact that I will be saddled with this burden until the day I exhale my last breath. I've also determined to never again subject anybody to that kind of pain and trauma. I cannot change the past, but I do intend to curb this narrative for my future. Hence, I've also started this channel in the hopes that I may deter others from making the same mistakes that I did, and also to bring closure to those who may need it. Hideous crimes have been perpetrated in this country, making us one of the murder capitals in the world. Senseless killings and wasted life with no end in sight. If I can just mention a few. The station strangler, Mr. Norman Simon, who was accused and convicted of a string of murders during the late 80s and 90s. Though I knew him personally, my focus is not on him, but on the kids, the little boys, whom he was accused of raping and then strangling. Even at the time when these crimes rocked the Western Cape, I used to ask myself, what are the parents of these boys going through? Where do they find comfort? Even now, almost 20 years later, surely they are still grieved by the grievous ways in which their little boys were taken from them. Did anybody ever take the time to go and console them or help them in trying to cope with the aftermath of such horrendous acts? Then there's also Pulelani Mabuya, Mabai, Pulelani Mabai, otherwise known as the Monster of Toleni, who went on a killing spree between 2007 and 2012 in the province of the Eastern Cape. His modus operandi was to break into houses where he knew there was no male figure present. He would then proceed to rape some of his victims, and then he would kill them by means of an axe or a panga. I ask myself, how do you sleep at night, knowing this is how your loved one died? How do you ever trust anybody ever again? Did our government provide those victims with any psychological or financial support? Oftentimes you'll find that it was the breadwinner in the family who was taken away, leaving whole families without any means to support themselves. Is there some kind of relief fund for them? Is there any kind of assistance in any way for the family of slain victims? Let me also mention Mr. Moses Sithole, who became known as the ABC killer. He was given a sentence of 2,410 years imprisonment. Of the 38 women for whom he was convicted, 11 of them were unidentified persons. There were another 76 possible victims to which the police had no evidence to link to Mr. Sithole. His modus operandi was to first beat, then rape, and then kill these women using their own underwear. Somewhere out there are families missing a loved one, not knowing whether she could have been one of these nameless victims. Somewhere, children are feeling abandoned, thinking that their parent might have neglected them, when in fact, that parent may be laying somewhere in a mortuary as a Jane Doe, unidentified and unclaimed. The last person I wish to mention in this segment dedicated to the victims of crime is the Boetie Boer, whose name is Stuart Wilken. He was given 7 life sentences for a killing spree that lasted from 1990 until 1997, when he was arrested. His victims included female prostitutes and also young boys. This guy was so twisted that he admitted to eating the nipples off of one of his victims. Again, I ask, how does one heal from something like this? How do you restore the faith of the people whose loved ones was taken in such a gruesome way? These are just 4 examples I've mentioned, 5 including my own. I needed to highlight and emphasize how crime and its repercussions has no preference with regards to race, gender, age, or social status. There are millions of victims out there who are picking up pieces and delving into the deepest parts of their being to find the strength to heal and to carry on with this walk of life. Of course, there are many different victims of crime, not just murder victims or rape victims. If somebody defrauded your company to the point where you had to close down shop or declare bankruptcy, you are also a victim. You also have been wronged and need to pick up pieces. If you invested all your money into buying equipment to start a business, and the thief comes along and steals that equipment. You too are a victim, and picking up the pieces is not easy. Having also been a victim of crime myself on numerous occasions, my experience of such situations basically was to pick up the pieces by myself with little or no assistance from those in power. Personally, I feel that so much more should or can be done by government to assist victims of crime. And then maybe people in general would be more open to exploring and understanding the reasons why people commit crime, and also invest more of their personal effort and time into eliminating those causes. But to simply lock up the perpetrators and then to expect from the victims to just carry on with their lives without harboring or nurturing intense hatred and distrust towards life in general, I don't think that it contributes positively in any way or form towards the moral nature of our society or country as a whole. So, when I speak about assistance from the state, obviously, in most cases, such as a breadwinner that has been slain or a company that was defrauded to the point of bankruptcy, I'm referring to some kind of financial assistance, even if it's only for a short period of time. In terms of rape victims or victims of violent offenses, I would refer to ongoing and constant therapy for the victims to heal psychologically. I feel there is just so much more that needs to be done to assist victims of crime, because so often in the narrative of an offender, when asked as to why they committed the crime, you'll find that somewhere during their life, they too were silent victims of crimes that went unpunished and undealt with. I don't think we realize as a society the unspoken scars and damages crime leaves on its victims, that leads to victims who was law-abiding citizens to become perpetrators themselves. A perfect example of this is how our leaders today loots our country's coffins. After we fought so hard to be free from the oppressive system of apartheid, they are doing exactly what has been done to them, only in a more subtle way. So to each and every victim of crime out there, on behalf of myself and all of those that I know personally who feels the way I do, my heartfelt apologies to you and your loved ones. I pray that you find healing and that you also find it in yourself to forgive the wrong that have been done unto you. It is my fervent wish for us through this platform to find constructive ways for both parties to move forward and to eliminate this very negative narrative of crime being on the constant rise in our country. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in my next installment. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and to comment on my video. But most importantly, please share it and be a friend to someone in need. Thank you so much. God bless.